Welcome to an invitation to sisterhood. We want you to join us on a journey as we discuss everyday issues affecting our lives. Women in the Bible and of Christian history continue to have an impact on the world even years after their deaths. We can learn so much from them. They are sisters of inspiration, and we're all sisters in Christ. Today we're talking about charitable giving with Jane Shalal from the United Community Family Services Chaldean American Ladies of Charity. Our saint of inspiration is Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta, and I'm joined by our co-host, ECRC Director Patrice Abuna and Adora Ibrahim from the Benedicta Institute for Women. Great charitable giving. We have all been part of charitable giving in our whole lives, don't you think?
Yes.
Since we were like young.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then I know, Patrice, you've been part of ECRC way before you became the director.
I was, yeah. Since I was a young adult, probably like right after college, started getting involved with the high school groups and then the summer camp, Vacation Bible School, and lots of other stuff. So, yeah.
So I got involved with the Ladies of Charity as a young kid. My mom was involved. The inception of the Ladies of Charity, which Jane will tell us, was really a group of Chaldean ladies that came together to help new immigrants come in. Right. So my mom, who learned to drive right when she got here and learned English very quickly by watching I Love Lucy, because that's what she credits it to, would take people to the doctors, and she would translate and help people get their driver's license and help them read their papers to become citizens. And so she learned the language very quickly, and that's what the Ladies of Charity kind of did. And so I grew up watching this group of women just purely volunteering their time to help Chaldeans assimilate into this country.
I think that's so beautiful. People always ask, why did we all end up here? It's like, well, whoever was the first ones that came here came for whatever reason. If it was,
I'll tell you what,
for jobs,
Henry Ford's $5 a day, because my grandfather came in 1909 the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Well, my grandfather came for the same reason, but it was in the 60s and 70s. I mean,
yes.
And they keep coming because of family now and because of things like this, because of organizations like Ladies of Charity and other charities that are our own people helping our own people to kind of like to assimilate, to do those things. Like I had somebody ask me once, I need just someone to help me drive to appointments, things you take advantage of. You take for granted when you can drive or you have so many people around you that you know. But if someone can't speak the language, simple paperwork becomes such a burden. It's almost impossible.
And it became reactivated in the last 10, 15 years, I think, on a whole other level. And especially more recently when ISIS began attacking in Iraq and everybody started leaving in droves. And I feel like, for each season and reason, these charities are able to do certain things for people. And imagine,
if they didn't
the
have
need.
Calc, if they didn't have
that, if they didn't have all these families who went before them, we had to sponsor, families coming to America. And that didn't mean just paperwork. It meant helping them get a place to stay, helping them the first few months, they're here to get off their feet, giving them a job, providing transportation. Everybody would come together. The village came together to help everybody.
For a few years now, my family, actually since my dad passed away, we kind of started this tradition. We used to exchange gifts with the 7 girls, my sisters and I. And when my dad passed away in 2002, we decided we're no longer going to exchange gifts. We're going to adopt a family. And some of us still do it. And we do it through the Ladies of Charity. And we deliver it. They give you a choice. You can either donate money or you can deliver the gifts. And Jane will talk about that. But we go purposely to deliver. My sister Vera and I do it, and I bring Elena now with me, and I am reminded. It humbles you. Like when I walked in with the gifts, the little girl, the woman had a daughter who was a little younger than my daughter, and then a baby, and the daughter was like, "Is this really for me? Is this like?" She was like, she couldn't believe it, and it's like you can't help but cry. And then and then I get in the car with my daughter, and she's like, "Mom, just don't give me anything for Christmas," because she's like, she was excited about just getting clothes, those kind of things.
It's so humbling, and it's so important for our kids to see that. I went to deliver a couple years in a row before we had kids, and one of my friends was there with his young kids, and really young, and I was like, we're going to do this every year. he's like, they need to see that. And I thought that was such a great lesson to teach your kids about humility, and also for them to just sort of get involved with that, you know, giving. Because you can tell them all day, hey, we're buying this for someone else. Like, we always adopt a family too. So last year we were buying presents, and my daughter was like, who's that for? I'm like, for our friends at church. Because, you know, we brought the gifts to church and put them under the tree at the church, and then they got delivered. And she just she was trying to connect it. Well, is it for that or that or that? And you know what I mean? Like, she sees, oh, these are gifts we're buying and things that she wanted. And I said, no, they're not for you. They're for someone else. And
I remember serving at a soup kitchen one year with my entire family, and I just remember, you know, looking at my children's faces, you know, at the impact that it was having as they were seeing, you know, these people walking up in our cold, you know, 30-degree Michigan weather, homeless, you know, nowhere to stay. I mean, of course, the warming centers are open during that time of year, but just being able to do that and creating something like a blessing bag is what I call it, like a Ziploc filled with toiletries and maybe a couple bucks for the bus and, you know, some hand warmers and things like that. And passing them out in the car as we see, you know, homeless people.
That's a great idea.
And you know,
I love that idea.
I forgot to bring some with me to my last trip to Chicago when I was bringing my son home, but Chicago streets, you guys, are filled. You know, you can't turn the corner without 4 or 5 of them. And, you know, instead of handing them $1 or whatever, hand them the bag. You know, there's a pair of socks in there, there's food in there, there's, you know, it's just
That's
a
a
Ziploc.
great idea.
that's a great idea.
So,
Blessing bag. I'm going to steal that idea from you.
Do that.
I love it.
I think something that we've talked about a lot. So once I got started here at ECRC, people approach us all the time and they're like, can we do a food drive? Can we do, you know, soup kitchen? Can we do fill in the blank? And we're always like, you know, we try to keep our focus, because if we try to do everything, then you lose focus, right? Our focus is really on the faith, on retreats, on faith formation, on education. But if somebody wants to get involved in something with service, we always refer them to the Ladies of Charity. So we know that they do it and they do it well.
Yeah, and they're doing it for a long
so that we can
time.
focus on what we do well. And then same thing with them. Someone comes to them and says, hey, let's do a religious retreat. They'll say, hey, we don't do that. They'll send them to us. So I think it's really beautiful in our community that we have, like, almost like that left arm, right arm, lifting them up with the physical needs, and then we do with the spiritual
And
needs.
they truly are a sisterhood. I mean, I've been involved with Ladies of Charity a long time. I know a lot of the women involved. As I said, my mom was part of it years ago. And we talk about invitation to sisterhood. They are a sisterhood. And most of their workforce are volunteers. It's not like you look at charities, you've done those stories where, you know, you think you're giving your money and you find out like 99% of it went to the employees and not the service. That's like the opposite of the Ladies of Charity. Most of the money is going to the people that need it and the services that they provide. And so there truly is like a sisterhood there. And they are like sisters. If you see them, they fight and joke around like sisters. I mean, you know what I mean? You get to know each other so well. And it's like us, you know, you could joke around with each other. You got to know each other so well. And there's like that love of that sisterhood with each other.
And I think I love the empowerment they have. Sorry to cut you off. The empowerment they have there when you meet them and see the way that they work. Because from back in those days when it really started, women weren't really given those positions and you know, to do that sort of stuff. And for them to say, hey, we're going to do it. And then they started this organization, one of the oldest organizations in our community. I think the longest running.
It is the oldest official nonprofit.
And I also believe that my first cousin, Maddie Dabish, was the first Chaldean Ladies of Charity president.
Well, you know what? Jane will tell us that.
Yes, she will.
Jane is the master of the history of the Ladies of Charity.
Okay.
I have worked on a lot of projects with her over the years on videos and books. And I'm sure she'll know that.
I can't wait
she'll
to
know
hear
that
about
history.
it. But it made me so proud to think here she is. She's alive and with us today. She's 90, close to 93, I believe. But, you know, of her telling me when it was first established all those years ago. And I thought to myself, look at that. It's spiritual motherhood in action. Okay? So not only were they caring physically for their own children, but they're caring physically for the needs of the community, for other children, for those who you know, just need the support. You know, sometimes you come here and the families are fragmented. You get a couple siblings that come first. You get a dad and a mom that come and can't bring, you know, all their children. And so, you know, the Chaldean Ladies of Charity, they fill in, and even though, that void of spiritual motherhood by providing those things.
And it was then Father George Garmo, who became later Bishop George Garmo, who actually encouraged the women to become an official 501c3. Which Jane will get into that too, because they were not formed. They started before they were officially nonprofit. But, you know, and that's why our saint is so important, because who is Mother Teresa, she just did exactly what you just said, Patrice. She just did it. Yeah. She wasn't waiting for a formal invitation. She just did what she needed to do to help those in need, the poorest of the poor. And those who she often would say nobody would pay attention to.
That's right. And she actually did receive her commissioning on a train ride from Jesus himself that said, to go and do these things in the streets of Calcutta. So while she had not formed an official, 501c3 or charitable organization, but just like the, Chaldean Ladies of Charity, they felt that call, they felt that need, and they, put themselves in action.
Yeah. So I think, when you read about the things, sometimes like the Ladies of Charity, every year at their dinner, they do like a testimony of a specific family or someone that they really touched, and every year we're all in tears. And this last year was about a woman who had 3 daughters, and I have 3 daughters. Me and my husband were like, here, just take it all. Like it really moves you. But the same thing when you read the stories of Mother Teresa, Saint Mother Teresa, you're just like, wow, she was down in the trenches. Like they say in the trenches, she was in the dirt, in the mud, lifting people up, wiping their faces, giving them
from the
dignity. And I think that's where it comes to, is that these people are coming from back home, and they might be in positions of power or status or something, and they have money. They come here, they have nothing, and the Ladies of Charity are giving them is dignity. And that's what Mother Teresa was so good at doing.
That's such a good point, Patrice. I remember meeting this gentleman who, it was actually through the Ladies of Charity to another family we adopted, and finding out he got a job as a janitor at a chain grocery store. And I said, what did you do in Iraq? And he said, I was the head of an engineering firm, and I had 200 employees underneath me. And I was like, wow.
Talk about humility.
Talk about humbling yourself. Wow. It's like, and he had his master's in engineering. He ran a company, had 200 employees underneath him, and he's mopping the floors.
Unbelievable.
What a man to do what he needs to do for
his family.
Yeah. So charitable giving, I think it's so important. I think we're all called to give back in some way, shape, or form. I remember just during Lent one year, we were talking about when you get back to the church.
Almsgiving.
I'm sorry, thank you for that. I lost the word. Almsgiving, and the priest was like, almsgiving is not always money. Some people just can't afford the money. Almsgiving is your work and your charitable work, and you may have a talent or the time or a skill set that a charity needs that you can provide to that charity, even if you can't afford with monetary donations, which is just as powerful. It's still almsgiving.
Well, it's using your gifts. Who was Jesus? He was a servant leader, right? And so we come in and, whatever gifts that we have, and, collectively all of our gifts are different, but when you come together, like you were saying earlier, the right hand, the left hand, the right lung, the left lung, it's many parts of the body, but all one, and so that's so needed.
Yeah, and the Ladies of Charity, they'll never know really how many countless people they have helped. They'll never know, and that's not even the point. But they have helped countless people.
That is true.
And families get on their feet, and with their food pantry and all the things that they do.
Classes and different things.
Classes, everything that they do, from the small little group that they were driving people to doctor's appointments to what they're doing today. And I'm excited to talk to Jane about it because, Jane was among those group of women that kind of took it to the next level. Like, Father Garmo at the time, Bishop Garmo, had the foresight to say, you need to become an official 501c3, be a legitimate organization. Well, over those decades, there was always somebody that came in and said, well, now we need to take it to this level. Now we need to take it to that level. Now we need to do this. And they just kept changing themselves and evolving themselves to do what they needed to do to meet the needs of the times. Which,
absolutely.
Which is charity in itself.
If you guys, I'm sure you've read that quote by Mother Teresa, that says, do good anyway, be kind anyway.
I love it.
And, at the very, very end, same here, at the very, very end, she said, for you see, in the end, it was never between you and them. It was always between you and God.
Just gave me chills.
So, we don't know the impact of what we do and the way that we give, but God willing, one day when we get to those pearly gates and He lets us in,
good and faithful servant.
He will show us. He will show us. Look, this is what happened because you gave. This is what happened because you sacrificed.
No, I was just listening to the Introduction to the Devout Life by St. Francis de Sales, and this one part just said, now at the end of your life, you're going to go either left or right. Immediately, you're going to either go left or right, and it's going to go in the way that you chose in your life is the way that you're going to go. So the decisions that you made in your life, basically, this is what you're saying. Did you choose to live for yourself, or did you choose to live for God? And live for this world or live for the next? Whatever your decision was throughout your life, that's your decision for eternity.
And that's really what the calling of charity is. And the charity is you're making that choice to sacrifice for others. Yeah. And a lot of those women, like I said, that we'll hear from Jane, are truly just volunteering their time. They don't need it. They're not getting paid to be there. They don't need to be there, but they're truly being called to give back. And I think it's one of the things I want to talk to Jane about. I think there's so many more people in the community that have a lot of time on their hands that could go and do work.
And I think at any age, I love, and I want to ask her about they got their young angels going, so they have their high school and college students. Yeah. The girls that get involved and they do stuff from that age, and then because then you get them in and then they stay with you.
Yeah, which is wonderful. They learn
what's going on in the organizations.
So we're going to continue this conversation about charitable giving with Jane Shalal when we come right back after this break. Stay with us, everyone. Welcome back to an invitation to sisterhood. We're talking about charitable giving, and joining us now is Jane Shalal from the United Community Family Services Chaldean American Ladies of Charity. Jane, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So we kind of gave our viewers a little bit of a background, but we really wanted all from you about the history of the Ladies of Charity and charitable giving today.
Well, I mean, the Chaldean American Ladies of Charity was started in 1961, 58 years ago, by a group of 20 women who basically met in their basement, and their mission at that time was to help newcomers acclimate and assimilate into American society. And here we are, 58 years later, doing the same thing, and helping those in need, probably those that need more help than their immigrant counterparts did in the 60s and 70s.
So, and you guys officially became a 501c3 at the time in 1961, but really it was a little bit before you started getting together, wasn't it, prior to that?
The organization started in 1961, and we formally became a 501c3 organization in 1981.
Oh, wow. So 20 years before. I didn't realize.
They were working as just a general charity group for almost 20 years.
Before. Wow, I didn't realize it was that many years.
Yeah. And who were some of the pioneers that began?
Well, I heard you mention Mary Dabish earlier, and yes, she was our first president, and we're very proud of her, and so many other women that's worked hard to keep the organization going through all these years. Mary's still with us, and she, in her 80s, she was still attending a lot of our events because that's how proud she was of the organization and where it has moved to. So, now we have probably membership of over 400, or sometimes it's up close to 500 people in the organization, and just a whole bunch of volunteers that work for us. We have grown. We have a large building now. We have an office where we conduct our services and perform services for the needy, which includes a large basic needs center in the back of our building, a food pantry, and people can come when they come, especially the people that have come here recently from Iraq as a result of ISIS and other terrible things that have happened to them, have left everything behind, have lost everything, and now have to start in a brand new country with a new language and with no money. So we're there to help them fulfill their basic needs once they get here, and then trying to get them to reach self-sufficiency with dignity and hope.
Yeah. Exactly what Mother Teresa was all about, dignity and hope. And Jane, as we were saying in an earlier part of the show, some of these people are highly educated.
Yes, they are. We have had doctors, we've had engineers, we've had a lot of people in the skilled trades, and unfortunately for them, they can't find a job in their profession because their credentials aren't recognized here in the United States, so they end up taking jobs that aren't really something that they studied for or intended to do. But they're in the survival mode, and they will do whatever they need to do to get resettled here, support their families, and move on from what happened to them.
So 58 years ago, a lot of the women, as we talked about, started taking other families to doctor appointments and filling out immigration papers and doing that kind of stuff. How has it evolved in 58 years?
Still doing the same thing, believe it or not, but more of it too. So yeah, I mean, my mom was with the organization, and she did the same thing as your mom did, Vanessa. She took people to the doctor's appointments. Sometimes they needed even a ride to church, and she would pick them up and take them home. But we still do the same. We do take people to the doctors if they lack transportation, and transportation is probably the #1 problem with the recent arrivals, because they don't have the money to buy transportation, but then they need transportation to get to work to get some income. Sure. So yeah, I mean, we provide that. We do a lot of interpretation and translation, actually, just like they did before. We also have a lot of different services now. Besides our basic needs center, we offer ESL classes so they can learn English. That helps them to get better employment, or kind of acclimate better into the society. We have citizenship courses, trying to move them toward the citizenship process. We have mentoring programs for the youth, where the refugee youth that come in, we have mentors who try to teach them different life skills here in the United States. Getting them, living in two cultures with these youth has been a real challenge, and it's actually a challenge for the kids and the parents as well. So we help with that. We do some mental health counseling with them. Some of these people, they've come from a very dark place. They've lost everything, literally, and so we try to help them understand what happened, deal with anything, whether it's anger or regret or just a variety of different feelings that they have as a result of being forced out of their country.
A lot of trauma. I would imagine there's a lot of PTSD from the war.
Many of them
from
have
ISIS.
PTSD. Yes, they do.
I can only imagine, having to run to bomb shelters, every time, there's sirens go off or what have you. But I just think even the most recent ones that have come as a result of ISIS, some of these people have seen the worst, horrific things that we can't even imagine. Oh, yes. So how do you, like you said, you come to this country, you don't speak the language, you don't have any money, you're literally starting over, and on top of that, you've experienced something very traumatic as a human being. So what you guys are doing is you're literally saving their lives.
Yeah, I mean, we are there to support them. We are, and when you fulfill somebody's basic needs, you need a bed to sleep on, you need food to eat, you need clothing on your back. When you start fulfilling their basic needs, they're very, very bonded to you, and they count on you to help them out, and they want to help themselves. They don't want to stay in that situation. So, we offer a different kind of services for them, the variety of services that we offer, all meant to help them get on their feet and move on.
That's amazing.
So you mentioned you had 400 to 500 members. So you have obviously a board and you have a president, and then what do the other members do?
Well, a lot of them mostly volunteer for us, So the other thing is, #1, there are ambassadors. There are ambassadors out there to tell people what we do, so that we can continue doing what we do, either with their support financially. They'll attend our events. They'll help with fundraising. They come to the food pantry and distribute food. They will donate clothing. They donate furniture. We have truck drivers going out to a lot of our members' homes once a week, picking up furniture. And the other thing they do is they hold drives, like food drives or bed linen drives, things like that. So it's because of the community support that the Ladies of Charity have sustained itself for 58 years. I really do believe that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was looking at your social media the other day, and I was like, I feel like you have another event like every other month. But I think it's so great because it sort of keeps that awareness there. It's probably twofold, right? It's it's social and it raises funds, but it also just kind of keeps the awareness. Because honestly, I don't know who I took to the dinner last year that had never really heard about what you do, and when you hear about it, you're just moved to continue to support.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, sometimes they think, not a lot of people, but several people think that we are a social group, and that's the last thing we are, really, because we are seeking help from the community to serve the poor. So that's what the events are for. It's not for us, or it's nice to socialize, but in the end, it's helping
raising money.
Right.
Yeah. It's okay that you're having a good time at it.
Yes, actually. Yeah.
I mean, we're women. How can we not have a good time when we're together?
And
Seriously.
it really is a sisterhood, like I said. I mean, you guys have a great relationship. I've seen it with my own eyes, and there's a lot of fun, and you guys do treat each other like sisters.
Yeah, we do. Vanessa, I've been with this organization for 28 years, so, so it's family, right?
Yeah,
so you
it is
stick
family.
with them, right?
Yeah, you do. And there's a lot of dedication by the people involved in the Ladies of Charity. Like I said, majority are volunteers.
They are.
They're not paid employees. And so majority of your money, it's going to the purpose of what you have created, what your organization has been created for. One of my favorite things is Patrice talked about is the testimonials at the event. I mean, everybody's crying by the end of those testimonials. I mean, you can't help but cry. But that woman had 3 daughters with cancer, right?
Each of them had a different illness. They were all sick. And then the mom got diagnosed with cancer.
The mom got diagnosed. Yes, each child.
And then they helped her with then her husband had left, so she was alone. So they had doctor's appointments for all 3 girls and then for herself. And then they gave them basic needs and
Yeah, our case managers attended all the doctors' meetings because sometimes they don't understand the medical terminology or what's happening with the medical advice. So we have a lot of our case managers that are there, and sometimes our volunteers go with them so that they can. Sometimes the trauma of what happened to you, you're not really consuming what's going on. So we go with them and we help them understand what's happening to them. And so where do we go from here? Can we help you? What can we do to get you through this?
And then you served as president for how many years?
I served as president for 4 years.
Wow. Yeah. And then from when you served to now, what have you seen as some of the major differences as it's grown?
Well, I mean, we, when I was first president, it was a completely volunteer organization, but because of the demand that was being placed on the community for people that needed help, especially the ones coming from Iraq, we needed more. So we started hiring staff, we started doing grant writing and obtained some grants so we could hire program staff. We built a building with the help of the community. We have this beautiful building in Troy, Michigan, where we can house our basic needs center, all our services, our classes, our training. They're all held there so that our clients don't have to go from point A to B to C. They know they can come in one place and get whatever it is they need. So that was a very large endeavor, and the community helped us build this beautiful building where we can put all our services and clients can come for help there.
That's a blessing.
We were talking about the younger group, and I know you were instrumental in putting that together, the Angels.
Chaldean Angels of Charity.
Yeah, so
I love
tell
that
us about that group.
Yeah, so this was many years ago. I think it's probably about over 10 years now. So we had a girls program, and then 2 of the girls came up to me and said, we'd really like to start a charitable group. And I said, okay, that sounds like a great idea. You have to be the leaders, you know. Of course, we guided them.
I always do that. When you work in ministry, when you work with volunteers, you say, okay, that's a great idea, you can do it. They're like,
that teaches leadership, right? It teaches leadership and charity.
Raising pillars.
So what do you want to do? And we actually left it to them to decide what charity work they want to do. So what they do for 10 years now, over 10 years, once a month, they choose a charity project to do. And it's not just with the Ladies of Charity. They've gone to the Haven Domestic Violence Center and done children's bingo for the moms and the kids. They've gone to Vista Maria for girls. They've done a lot of things. They've done stuff for the church. They've done things for us. They've done, I think they've been in the seminarian walk. They pick the projects. So what that's teaching them is teaching them, number 1, leadership, of course, and 2, charity. How do we do charity? How do we, and what do we pick? And where do we go? Who needs our help?
And what is the age group of the younger
girls? They're all
girls?
high school girls.
Okay, because I would love for Christiana to get involved.
Yes, it's great. All high school, all Chaldean high school girls. Yeah, we have a good group, and they do so many things.
That's incredible.
So how can people get involved in what you're doing? The high school kids, what can they do what help do you need, and how can we help?
Well, for the high school girls, they just pick a different event every month. Whether it's going to, like I said, to different agencies and doing work there. Sometimes they go to the nursing home. So if the high school girls want to come, they don't have to come every single time. We understand they're busy too. But pick a project that you might enjoy and come and enjoy. You make friends too. You make a lot of good friends, just like the Ladies of Charity. We made a lot of good friends over the years. They're making a lot of good friends too, as they're like a sisterhood themselves, a young sisterhood.
So if it's been for 10 years, have you seen any of them sort of graduate from that program and become members?
Yes, some of them are advisory board members, in fact.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we're always looking for successors.
That's great. Future
Jane
president.
says she eventually has to retire.
Eventually,
Maybe that's why she came on here, Hinton.
Anybody out there? That's right.
So what about besides a high school, if someone's just like a young adult or an adult or maybe even older than that, how can they get involved?
So there's so many ways to get involved. Of course, one is financial. You can make a donation to our organization either online or, send in, a financial donation. Come to our events, support our events. But then we also have other things they can do. They can come to the food pantry. They can distribute food. We have, with Gleaners and Forgotten Harvest, we have a palace of food delivered twice a month, and it's organizing the food and then distributing it to the clients. Basic Needs Center warehouse where, just kind of organizing the Basic Needs Center. We have a Saturday Dreams mentoring program. So we do need mentors, and our mentors are usually post-college mentors. They're adults. So we need mentors there, and sometimes providing transportation. Our staff is sometimes limited in what they can do, providing transportation, helping with interpretation. There's so many different things they can do.
I want to be a mentor.
Okay.
What about for someone that might not live in the state of Michigan? How could they, what if they were like, oh, I've always wanted to do charity work, how could they kind of get involved or get started with something?
So charity work, really all charity, to me, pure charity work is basically kindness and love, giving from your heart, not expecting anything in return, not expecting a reward. Yeah. So you can do that anywhere. You don't have to do it with the Ladies of Charity. You can do it out of state. Find, a lot of churches have a lot of charity work to do, but just finding a place where you feel like you can use your time and talent. And that's one other thing that that you can do. Like, you can give money, sure. You can give your time, but you can also give your talent. Like, we have people that have served, they're CPAs, but they help with our treasury, the treasury and the financial reports. I am probably, my little skill is, better skill is writing. So I write the grants for them, volunteer that way. So there's, whatever your talent is, you can find a place in a charity to use it.
I remember my siblings being a part of the volunteer mobile legal clinics and giving of their time as lawyers because, like you said, the immigration documents and all these different things that they have to fill out. It's very hard to decipher the info as English-speaking people, but then as somebody who doesn't speak English as their first language, they are truly lost.
Yeah. And it's expensive if you have to. Right. I'm an attorney myself, but so it gets expensive for people and people that are below the poverty level just cannot afford attorneys to help them out.
That's just an incredible work that you do.
One of my favorite things that the Ladies of Charity does is adopt a family during Christmas. You guys have been doing that for a long time.
Yes, that's been a number of years now.
Yeah, and that to me is one of the most powerful things you get to do because you get to see firsthand. A lot of times you give money, you don't really know, you don't see it where it's happening unless you're there at the center giving out food. You don't really see it. When you take those gifts to the family, it's like it becomes a reality.
Yes, it does.
And it's amazing. Can you talk about that program?
Yeah, that program, it's been going on for probably, I think, 12 years now, maybe a little bit longer. But so what we do is we find sponsors in the community.
It's been going on longer because my dad died 17 years ago.
Okay.
We started
See, I lose track of Vanessa. When
I just remember we started doing that after my dad passed away. So
it's
been going on a long time.
So, but and we take sponsors in the community. All our families are fully assessed, and we find out the neediest of them. And what they do is we ask the families what's their need list and what's their want list. And needs lists are so basic. I need detergent. I need pillowcases.
Sometimes
things like
their
that.
want list is a need.
Yeah, their want list is a need. It's true.
Yeah, I was reading mine this year. And I was showing my sister Vera, and I said, Vera, everything on this want list is a need. I mean, exactly. Yeah. Like the girl wanted a winter coat. I'm like, that's not a want, that's a need.
Yes, exactly. And our sponsors, I really have to our sponsors are the most generous sponsors ever because when I see the gifts coming in, they have gotten them everything on their want and needs list, so it's like, this is incredible. And the smiles on the children's faces, I've done this myself, the smile on their faces is just so remarkable. It's so moving.
And like the parents too.
And the parents too.
Because as a parent, if you can't give to your kids, your heart breaks.
Oh, yes.
So the fact that your kids get to get those gifts, that's, and it gives that dignity that you're talking about.
And for our children to see that too. I remember one year we did actually give the gifts ourselves because sometimes, logistically, but it's a wonderful thing to do. And I remember my kids faces. Like they literally fell to the ground when they saw how they were all living in this teeny tiny apartment. And, you know, as we were giving them the gifts and how excited they were, I mean, it literally brings you to tears.
Yeah, it does.
You know, and I think that leaves a mark on your kids, and just, you know, to make them grateful for what they have, but also, like you said, to get involved at a young age.
And know they can make a difference.
Yes.
I remember the same thing. We walked into this, it was a little tiny apartment. It was a mom and two little girls. The dad was still stuck in Iraq. He couldn't get here. So was by herself with like basically a 6-month-old and I think she was 10. Their daughter was 10. And Elena, we walk in and she said, "Mom, where's the rest of their house?"
Oh, yes.
And I was going to cry because I'm like, this is it.
Yeah. And they're, you know, it's, and the parents are so appreciative too.
Yeah.
They are just so appreciative. You've just given them a Christmas that they otherwise would not have had, you know, so it means a lot to them.
Well, it was so funny because the lady asked me, I was texting her back and forth because we delivered it. She texted, because we delivered the gifts about 5 or 6 days before Christmas. It was just right before Christmas. She texted me, she goes, "Would you be really upset if she opened them today?" I'm like, "No."
Go for it. We'll be happy.
And she texted me all these pictures. I'm going to cry because like, she tried on every outfit. It was so cute.
That's so sweet.
And,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm going to cry because every time you see it, you're just like, oh my God, you know you made a difference in somebody's life at that moment.
Especially that time of year.
Yeah.
I remember when my husband did it, because we didn't have kids at the time, so we would go, and one time we spent like an entire day, went to 4 or 5 houses, and then we get in the car that day, and you're just so humbled, the whole thing, and then because otherwise, what are you doing? Spending the day at the mall, you're spending the day just spending, and everything is just consumerism, right? And then you just see these people living so simply. It's
and since my kids have gotten older, past the St. Nicholas stage, I won't say in case some children are watching. That's what I've done. I'll get them one thing. Kenny and I will get them one thing, and then I will make a donation, in honor of my child, Luke, Christiana, Dominic, whatever their favorite thing is. Like, for example, my boys love to play soccer, and there's one particular village where I donated like 12 soccer balls, in their name. Christiana loves baking. I bought that village like 100 chickens so they could have eggs. You know what I mean? So like, you guys,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, life's not about consumerism.
Santa Claus still visits my house. Okay?
Oh yeah, he puts little candies in my kids' shoes on St. Nicholas Day. Okay.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah, that's all.
It is.
We'll have to bring Santa Claus on.
Yeah, but that's teaching your children a lot, in terms of charity, because how do we teach our children's charity? First of all, either the donation or taking them with you, and telling them, mentoring, being a mentor, being a Chaldean angel, so they can carry the torch of charity in the future generations.
Jane, I know it's a joyful opportunity to help out, but there's got to be some days where you guys are drained by the need.
Yes, yeah.
The need has got to surpass the ability.
Yeah, you start crying now. You hear some of the stories of what happened to these families, and you start crying because how do you get? All I can say to some moms, how do you get over that? How does that image in your mind ever get erased? And it would always be there for me. Whether it's people being killed in front of you, your family members, or things like that. But I think it gives them solace to have somebody there, that's the thing, the kindness, the generosity, it helps them so much to move on from what they're doing, or what has happened to them, to me, that's why I do it. And sometimes I'm not even at the grassroots level. I'm kind of at the fundraising level. Why do I do it? Because that in the end is going to help them.
Well, it's all interconnected.
It is.
You can't have the grassroots unless you do what you do.
Yeah.
And you know what, Jane? You guys are the hands and feet of Jesus Christ.
That's right.
So even though, we might not see Jesus right in front of us, but I see Jesus right here, in all of us. And that's what these women see when they come to you, when these families come to you and they've been traumatized. You're literally the hands and feet of Christ for them.
Well, Jesus, he identified himself with people that were less fortunate, didn't he? And he wanted us, he loved thy neighbor, right?
Yeah, and then whatever you did for the least of my people, that you did unto me. So I think, every time you're giving them their basic needs, you're clothing Jesus.
Just like in the gospel, when he said, he said to him, Lord, when did I see you? And I didn't, he said, well, that time, that man needed food or that person needed clothing and you didn't, clothe them. That was me. Yes. That was me. They're also Jesus to you.
You're emulating him, so
yes.
That's what's important.
Jane, do you ever get to see the people a few years later get on their feet? And
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be surprised how many people come back and volunteer for us.
Really?
Yeah, there's a gentleman.
Yes.
They
There's
had
a whole family.
a food drive during Lent one year here at ECRC, and this gentleman that would do the pickups, he was once receiving, and ever since he received, now he's on his feet. He comes and he came at least 3 or 4 times, and then I can't. He just
They do. They come back and they help out as well, and they volunteer. And if we're busy with maybe something in the food pantry, they will come forward and say, "What do you need help with?" Because it empowers them too. It helps them to understand what charity is and helping others as well. But yeah, we get a lot of families coming back, and I would say a lot of our staff members are refugees themselves. Wow. So yes, I would probably say about 70% of them are refugees. And they do a wonderful job. They do a wonderful job with they empathize with them. They're culturally sensitive to what happened to them during their journey here.
Yeah.
So,
and I know you guys have been helpful to help refugees find jobs other places, helping them place and find jobs. I've talked to people there and have said, hey, Vanessa, we have an electrician, we have this person, we have that person, a job for them. I think it's great that you're helping them seek employment because ultimately that's what they want.
Yes,
they want to be able to take care of their family.
Right. Yeah, we have a career coach that comes in once a week, and they help them with the resumes and figuring out what they want to do. And some of them that do have degrees, he'll try to get some equivalency or a credentialing for them, or trying to find out what the process would be for them. But yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing about this community, because we have so many connections in this community. We've been here for so long. Vanessa, this person needs this kind of a job, do you know anybody that, can hire him? We are finding people jobs based solely on our connections.
And why not use them?
Yes,
what are they if we're not using to help other people?
Yeah.
So Jane, how can we reach the Ladies of Charity and find out more about what you do?
Well, we have a website, www. You can go either to calconline.org or ucfamilyservices.org. We have an Instagram, and our Instagram is Calc, and our Facebook is United Community Family Services. So you can there you'll find information about our services. Of course, you can call our offices at 248-528-0130 and stop by anytime.
Where are you guys located?
We're off of Maple Road between Stevenson Highway and John R.
Oh, wow.
In the city of Troy.
Not far from my old high school, Bishop Foley. You should have those kids come and volunteer.
We have a lot of different volunteer groups. We have people from, a crew from Blue Cross will come by. A crew from General Motors is coming by. So in addition to the community people helping, we have people outside our community also coming to help out because they believe in it.
Yes, they have. St. Catherine's.
Yes, right.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been to their center. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Like you said, it's just huge, and just to see what you're able to do with it is.
And you guys were blessed because people donated stuff to your office.
Yeah. Oh my God, 90% of the furniture in our office is donated. By the private bank, which I never heard of them before, but wow.
Yeah, they were closing. A bank was closing and they donated all their furniture to them.
It's just
beautiful. Beautiful
furniture. It's just beautiful what they did.
You guys deserve that.
Thank you.
And all the work that you do. What else would you want to share with us about charitable giving and getting the whole family involved? Like we talk about adopting a family, and we talk about the young angels, but the entire family, how can we all get involved with what?
I think bringing the family to a charitable event is important, just so they see, like you say, they see the faces on the people that you're helping and how appreciative they are. And you know what, we're very blessed to have what we have, but when we see others that do not have, that does humble us, as you say, and it encourages us to do more. It inspires us. And when we give and we donate and we perform charitable act, it inspires others to do it, not just our family members, our friends. I don't know how many friends I've brought forth to the Ladies of Charity or other charitable events that we do. I mean, it just, emulating charity all the time, emulating Jesus all the time, inspires others to act the same way.
Yeah. Amen. Well, thank you so much for being with us here on Invitation to Sisterhood.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
Important topic, charitable giving. Well, stay with us, everyone. We're going to wrap up after this break. Welcome back to an Invitation to Sisterhood, where we've been talking about charitable giving. Jane Shalal was great. I was so happy she was able to come on and talk about that long-standing history of the Ladies of Charity, been around since 1961, of all the work they've been doing. I did not know they were 20 years in existence before they became a 501c3.
Yeah, which is still pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because if you think about these, we're all immigrant women.
Yeah.
And immigrant women getting together, like she said, they still have that stigma of just being a social group.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they just get together, they have a bunch of parties, like that's all they do.
Yeah.
So for 20 years, for however many years they've been along, to still have that stigma
58 years.
is just crazy because they have
Sometimes
all
I
the
wonder
great
it's
work they
because
do.
it's women.
Well, I mean, and then think about it too on the reverse, on the flip side. So 20 years they were established before they actually, had their formal, 501c3. Look at how women are. Look at how mothers are. They don't need a title. They don't need a
They just do it.
501c3. They just get in there and they fill the needs wherever they see them.
Yeah.
So I commend them for doing that for all those years. They weren't doing it because they wanted, a tap on the shoulder. Hey, good job. You do this and that. They did it because, all of our families came here as immigrants. And what better way to give back to our people than to be able to help them in their time of most need when they come here with nothing.
And when they call it their basic needs center, when you hear that word, to me, I don't know about you, but it just jars me, like basic needs. People could actually come to this country and not have, or people are living that don't have basic needs. Because we live in that, top 10% of the country. Sometimes we don't see that. Like these people don't have food. They don't have a bed. They don't have,
Well, imagine, listen, I always think about this. Imagine yourself having to pick up and go live in Iraq.
I know.
I mean, really, just pick up and go live in Iraq. You don't know the language. You don't have a job. You don't have a car. You probably don't have anywhere to live. A lot of the people, when our parents were coming, they had family, right? They had somebody sponsoring them. A lot of these people coming today, they don't know anybody. They don't have family already here established.
Actual refugees that are
like my dad came here a few years after his brother, who'd already established himself for a few years, had a job, and then my dad was able to bring his younger siblings, and then my mom's family. It's like somebody was helping somebody along the way. Where these new immigrants coming to this country literally are coming here and have nobody.
Yeah, it's a very difficult position to be in.
Yeah, and it's happening across different cultures. I mean, we know the Chaldean community the most, but it's happening in a lot of different communities across the country. So,
well, if you think about Christian persecution, it's at its worst in our 2,000-year history, okay? Who is the most oppressed and persecuted people right now? That is the Christians, regardless if it's in the Middle East or whether it's in Africa or India. They are literally being slaughtered. Look at what happened in Sri Lanka. Like, how horrifying. So these families that are coming here are basically faced with two choices: stay and potentially die, or leave with nothing and start over with nothing. But they at least have their lives. And even though they don't have their basic needs, they're still so grateful to be in a place, in a country where they can worship and they can, live out their faith without being killed.
I love that you said that. I remember when a newcomer had come, and all they wanted to do was put a nativity on their front lawn, and they bought the biggest, they didn't buy, they just made sure it was like this big thing. And I'm like, why was it such a big deal? Because they couldn't do that in the old country. Things we take for granted. I don't put a nativity outside of my house. I think it's a little cheesy person. But this person was so proud that he was able to just display his faith.
And what it means to him.
And we take things for granted. We wear a cross and we just proclaim our faith, and you have your tattoo. It's so easily. And to them it's like oppression, and your faith has to sort of be a little bit quieter. You have to do things sort of just kind of stay quiet so you don't
Underground.
Don't cause a fuss. With your faith.
I was thinking of that during the 2014 invasion, because all those churches were bombed and they couldn't go to church during Christmas. Remember Christmas and Easter, they stopped going they didn't go to church, they were scared. And I remember being in Mass thinking, how lucky are we? I can come and worship and not worry about somebody bombing my
over
church.
and over again.
You know,
the simplest things,
Yeah.
from showering to having vegetables to cut up. You know,
Yeah.
every time I would do anything, I would just say, thank you, God. And I would think about the moms, you know, and how they didn't have the ability to meet their child's basic need.
Well, just like that woman that Patrice mentioned that Jane reiterated, the mom who ended up with cancer, she had the 3 little girls, each with their own health problem.
Sure.
I mean, can you imagine that, you guys? And we're living in this world with the needs that we have, what we can provide our children. Can you imagine having 3 little girls that all have health issues, then you have cancer, you have no husband, no money, nothing, no job, nothing?
And then
That's
here
overwhelming.
we sit very comfortably. So I think that's what God calls in Scripture. He says, to whom much is given, much is asked.
Yeah.
And we need to be generous. God's not calling us to just build up our storehouses, to build up the silos and fill it with food and just store it so that we can be comfortable, because we'll be fools. Our life will be taken from us that day.
Yeah.
Instead, he's calling us to give and to give. And I just love, I always reiterate this even with ECRC, with some people say, well, I'm not really comfortable giving talks. I'm not really comfortable leading a retreat. And I say, just give of your time. Come and help me sweep
Put
the floors.
books in a bag.
Yeah.
Same with
Yeah.
them. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not comfortable, like she said, she has a law degree, so she's writing grants. So she might not, like, I sometimes don't have the heart to like be on those front lines. But hey, I'm a great administrator. I'll come and help you organize your books all day long.
Right.
You know, where others might say, I'm not really good with Microsoft Excel, but I'm going to organize your food on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of giving of your time and your talent, whatever that might be. And others might say, hey, I don't have time, but I have money.
Yeah.
And I think about the gospel story of the widow who gave her last 2
Yeah.
coins.
Yeah.
You know, she was not giving from her surplus. She was giving from all that she had left. So imagine us, you know, yes, I know that we all do our charitable giving in different ways, but you know, to give like really has to be sacrificial, you know, and I get it. We have children, we have busy lives, and we have jobs. Most families today have both mom and dad working, and you know what, that's okay. But at the same time, we have to think about all these other people that have needs, and they don't have our families or our connections or our friends, or you know, even the ability to drive from point A to B.
I love when she said that a lot of them come back and help after they get established. It's like they're paying it forward. They got help, and now they're saying, it's my turn.
And also, I think that comes from like her giving the organization giving them a sense of dignity.
Yeah.
Because people then feel like I can give and I should give.
Yeah.
So.
And that is the epitome of Mother Teresa, Saint Mother Teresa. You know, I think about, you know, all these pictures that we've seen of her, you know, as people are dying and she's kissing them on the forehead, or she's like, you know, washing somebody, or, you know, just to restore a human being's dignity. You know, like she talked about the man who, I think was you, Vanessa, who was, you know, being a janitor after he had, you know,
He was an engineer.
leading 200 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I remember he was one of the families that we had given Christmas gifts to, and you just want to talk to them, find out what their life is like, and you just assume they always were poor. You know, you're making that assumption. And then I talked to him, and I said, well, what did you do in Iraq? And he was working in Baghdad, and he said, I'm an engineer. I have a master's degree, and I headed a company with 200 employees. I'm like, are you kidding me? And he was like the janitor of a grocery store.
Well, I'll tell you, money comes and goes. We all know that.
Yeah.
We just, you know,
Titles
are climbing
come and
out.
go.
We're climbing out of the worst recession in American history since the Great Depression. And, you know, right now things are stable, thank God. But all that can change in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And you know what? God forbid we're ever on the other end and we might need help. You know, it's just, you never know the way that God will work. And I just feel like if we're able to give of ourselves and we're able to sacrifice, it will come back to us.
Yeah.
Those blessings will come back. And you don't do it because you're expecting anything in return. It's just the way that God works.
Well, we're going to continue this conversation. Well, we're not going to continue this conversation. It was a great show, great charitable giving. She left us with such a wealth of information. But as always, we're going to take like 3 bits of those, 3 of our favorite little tidbits, and share those with our viewers as we share our pledges with you.
I pledge to give my time, talent, or treasure to my community. I pledge to find a local charity that I can give back to. I pledge to intentionally look to see Jesus and to be Jesus to everyone I encounter.